Hey guys, this is What If Moon Knight was in Young Justice Part 3. Now, this What If is actually doing pretty good, and I intend to end this What If all the way until Season 4, I think. Or Season 5. I think it's only 4 seasons in Young Justice at this point. Now, let's just dive right into the video, and I'm just going to get right to the point. Now, last time I left off where we seen Moon Knight and everybody else after the effects of the failsafe episode, where we see everybody do their whole entire thing with the, the pretty much simulation or test on who would pretty much test out to survive in the worst possible situation where all the Justice League members and most of all the heroes were killed off, and only the younger heroes and younger generation of heroes had to band together to defeat the whole alien invasion thing. After that, you get switched Jake Lockley, Moon Knight, basically doing his thing. After that, we still have Moon Knight goes out for a night little, pretty much a midnight type of battle as we switch to October 23rd, where we see the team, where we see Megan prepare some sort of, food. As they have no signal and they're still feeling, pretty sad and gloomy after the whole entire failsafe episode, we see that we see Moon Knight's out at Gotham, basically in Gotham when it's nighttime at this point. Basically him fighting crime, as he would be kicking down villains and pretty much beating the absolute blood, like literally beating the dog water out of everybody he ever sees, or even, as Moon Knight is taking down people, just paying his rage into these punches and almost killing a couple people, as he's stopped by Stephen Grant. Mark tells Stephen to get out of this, and Stephen tells him that he needs to stop this. As Stephen introduces himself as Moon Knight and tries to reason with pretty much, Mark, as Mark is not taking this and just says to stay on my head. As Mark goes out deeper into the crevices and pretty much the deeper, darker, more gruesome parts of Gotham, even in the bad neighborhood parts, like literally the worst of the worst parts of Gotham. As he's fighting crime left and right, beating pretty much criminals to a bloody pulp, as he eventually comes across a Joker band. As he's about to go in, he's stopped by Batman. As Batman tells him he needs to stop this. As they talk a little bit, and Batman and Moon Knight are about to take a fight, pretty much Moon Knight and Batman are called to Mount Justice. As they go to Mount Justice, Moon Knight feeling kind of embarrassed, or pretty much kind of just frustrated with the fact that Batman stopped him before he can actually go after Joker, since he had a right validation to go after Joker, since Khonshu a long time ago said that Joker was a big part of his last couple people in this world to bring vengeance or the hand of Khonshu upon. But we're not going to get into that. As we get switched back to Mount Justice after we see everybody glooming up and we see Mark walk into the room, we get switched to all the teammates getting kind of a pretty much mental, not mental, pretty much a mental evaluation from Black Canary. Black Canary having a little bit of a, let's just say, therapist talk with all the members of the team. As they have a little bit of a talk about, how they felt after the simulation, as they're told pretty much that it should have been so hard. As Connor's the first one to have his whole time, pretty much talk. As we switch to the rest of the team, as they have their talk, as Connor walks out, as we see some new gods appear in Metropolis, as we see Bear and a couple other new gods, us being introduced to them for the very first time. As they're, going around trying to figure out where the mother box is, or trying to figure out where pretty much the orb is, aka the whole orb that's following around Connor, and also turns into a bike to pretty much drive Connor out of Mount Justice, as he switches to the rest of the team having evaluations, as Moon Knight refuses to have one, as he just walks out of each one he has with Black Canary. Him not really wanting to be this. Him not really wanting to be here, since pretty much, Stephen would have told him that we need this, and Mark would have said that I'm fine. I'm fine with having multiple personalities in my head and trying to push them out. Saying, saying that Steven needs to stay out of his head before he gets, angry. Now, after that, we see how Steven goes a little bit silent over a couple hours, and pretty much Mark goes down in the city as he's fighting some crime. As he eventually sees Connor and the New Gods have their fight, he jumps in right when the New Gods were winning the fight as they combined into. Basically, after pretty much Moon Knight jumps out and pretty much goes to try to look for Connor. As he sees Connor, go on his whole mission with the New Gods, him fighting against some people with type of, New God or alien technology. As they start the fight against, pretty much the New Gods and Connor. As Moon Knight's seeing this through some of the windows of the, warehouse they're fighting in or the underground base they're fighting in. As he sees all this, as he breaks a window and jumps in, throwing a smoke bomb and pretty much, cutting the lights. As everybody is blind, and most of the New Gods with their glowing tech see nearly okay, as Connor's using his X-ray vision, or not using his X-ray vision, just using some of his vision to try to see what's going on. As the New Gods combine into their form to fight more efficiently, as not Ace, but one of the people with the New God technology tells them to, throw one of the mother boxes in their form to stop them from, evolving. Or not stop them from, but basically just control them. Now, as is happening, pretty much Moon Knight or Mark jumps in trying to stop this. As the New Gods start to fight against Connor and pretty much the Orb and Wolf, as Moon Knight helps Connor with this whole fight. As Moon Knight's throwing shurikens, not batarangs, but Moon Knight Crescent batarangs, taking his bow staff and trying his hardest to go against this, pretty much being, as he's starting to get overpowered a little bit too much. As he starts to get pummeled down to the ground and thrown around like a ragdoll, his Moon Knight durability, and basically as he's pushed down into a wall. As he gets back up, basically him grabbing some sort of metal pipe and throwing it like a whole spear as he directly hits the center of the New Gods, somehow pretty much disassembling them into their original forms. After that, just by pure luck, Khonshu guiding the spear somewhat into the New God's chest, as the New Gods are, taken down and pretty much, saved, as you see the rest of everybody else pretty much there is, stopped. Some of the tech, or some of the New God tech, is stolen, but most of it is reclaimed. After that, we see that Bear and the New Gods befriend Connor and also allow him to have the spear, basically letting him take it and telling him to go. After that, we see that pretty much the more senior members of the Justice League, Batman, Martian Manhunter, Red Tornado, and Shazam are basically pretty much analyzing the orb, knowing that now it's a living being, more of a living being, and also alien tech as well. As Connor goes in to do a mental checkup, as Mark still refuses. Mark not really wanting to be a part of this because I'm pretty sure Black Canary can't handle multiple personality disorder. A person with multiple personality disorder, plus he has powers, and each of his personalities have a different suit and different fighting method with their powers. And I feel like a combination of, pretty much Moon Knight or Mark Spector and pretty much Steven Grant working together as a team, all three of them, could easily take down Black Canary, in my opinion. But after this episode's over, episode was really just overall dull and not a good episode, in my opinion. It was more about Connor and the New Guys and therapy, and it was just slow. But as we get switched to a museum, as one of the museum relics are stolen, aka a sword is stolen, as they are trying to figure out who stole it, pretty much in Gotham. As this is happening, we see the man or the boy that stole it takes out the sword out of some sort of magic sheath, and the sword pretty much makes some sort of magic lightning or something. It basically going up against him going up against the police and taking them down pretty quickly. As he goes against The pretty much the laws of physics. He literally just kills everybody in the museum. He marks everybody in the museum and ditches the museum as quick as possible. As he leaves the museum, he gets switched to the rest of the team pretty much having their Halloween party, as it is a full moon. Basically, Moon Knight being at his peak form or his peak strength. As this is happening, everybody gets into their, pretty much costumes, as we get switched to Mark getting in, the Moon Knight outfit. Basically, no, Mr. Knight outfit. Him saying that, Stephen Grant should have the night. Basically, Mark Spector taking the night off and letting Stephen Grant take his body. As Stephen Grant takes the body, him walking off. As Stephen Grant starts to pretty much do the whole thing. As Stephen Grant goes outside the Mount Justice and basically just starts to contemplate and think about the last couple days and try to figure out what's the best course of action for, pretty much him and Mark, as he's conflicted. But as we get switched back to the rest of the team, as they're having the same conversation, some of them asking where, Mark was, them answering that Mark was just on the roof. After that, we get switched to pretty much everybody else. And as at night, we get switched to, pretty much the costume party at the high school. And we get switched to pretty much the magic user, the whole magic thing that happens in the episode. And most of it doesn't really involve, Moon Knight in the slightest. As I just skip over this episode entirely, Moon Knight for the iteration of this whole episode just being in the background and not really changing the story much at all. As we get switched to episode 19, since episode 17 and 18 was trash and just overall just a sucky episode. As we get switched to the episode 19, as we get switched to pretty much the God of Chaos and him trying to make a spell. As he makes a spell to try to control the world, as he makes a spell separating the adults and the teenagers or the kids from the adult world and separating them into two different dimensions. As the other gods of pretty much magic try to stop him, as he gets into kind of a brawl with them. As he eventually, makes the spell and eventually being, separated, as everybody in, the adult universe, everybody else in their universe is separated. After this, we get switched to the episode since it would happen a little bit earlier. And what would happen is after everybody would disappear and all the adults were separated from the kid universe and the adults were put into a adult universe, as everything would have changed completely. Everything being, confusing. Billy Batson being the main point of the story, but also Moon Knight. As Moon Knight would have been out on patrol fighting some crime in Gotham City like he normally does in most of the background parts of this episode that he's not really involved, as he eventually picks up on this. As Khonshu tells him that something has disturbed, something big, something dark and magical has stopped. As Moon Knight's confused saying, dark and magical, what are you talking about? Him saying that it hasn't stopped, but it stopped something in the world. It has done something. As Khonshu disappears trying to figure out what that big burst of magic happened in the world, as he tries to figure out what's going on. As everything that's going on happens, as Mark tries to figure out what's going on. As Mark saves a couple kids, and a lot of people from, death since their parents just vanished. Most kids that got in car accidents weren't really, injured that much. Connor also saving some people as well. Moon Knight running around, saving some people. And what would happen, some graffiti artists would get stopped because, Megan would stop them. But pretty much the episode goes similar to saying the first couple minutes of it. Now, what would happen is the team would have gathered all the children in the school locker room. Gym. Sorry, I don't know why I said locker room, but gym. As Megan would make jokes to entertain the kids, as we get switched to pretty much Moon Knight entering the gym, him kicking down the doors, as he would look around. Most of the kids being kind of, scared and intimidated by him. Him giving off some Batman vibes. Him being in this outfit. As one of the kids would have, like Batman, and would have ran up to Mark to try to get his autograph. As Mark would have looked at the kid through his mask getting very greased up in him looking at the kid with a lot of intent in his eyes, as him being a little bit peed off by the kid walking towards him thinking that fear was a big part of his whole story, his whole thing. As Mark gives the kid a little bit of an autograph as he runs off, pretty much back outside to save some people. As we get switched back to Mount Justice, as we see Wally, Robin, and Aqualad make a pretty much worldwide television, view to all people around the world, saying that something's happened to all the adults in the world, some sort of magic interference, and giving them the same speech as in canon, or as in original. As we get switched to Gotham High, pretty much Paris, Japan, what was it, Tai Ling, because they would show a little bit more, because, well, it's a butterfly effect. What happened as we would get switched to pretty much Billy trying to figure out how to get to the Mount Justice, since he wouldn't have his clearance to be teleported there, as he would ask one of his adult friends to drive him, or not drive him, but to fly him to Mount Justice, or to pretty much Happy Harbor. As we get switched to Moon Knight, basically in Mount Justice, him walking into Aqualad and Wally talking about his whole, shelf of, pretty much souvenirs, as they would look at the pretty much, Dr. Fate helmet. As Moon Knight would have looked at the Dr. Fate helmet, him walking towards Dr. Fate's helmet and grabbing it off the shelf, Wally telling him, "What are you doing?" and Moon Knight contemplating on putting it on or not. As Khonshu would have told him that I'm not strong enough to fight against, Dr. Fate. Since I chose you, you were the perfect specimen, or the perfect physical form for Dr. Fate to, control you, to make you his avatar. As Khonshu would have told him not to put it on, as Moon Knight would have just left the idea there and put it back on the shelf, as he would have walked off. As we would get switched to Billy, basically being kind of confused, as his adult friend would have told him that it was her birthday tonight, and she was about to turn 19, or turn into adult, 20 or 19. As her adulthood basically kicked in, her teleporting into the adult universe, or the adult dimension, where all the other, adults and members of the pretty much Young Justice, members of the Hall of Heroes, and a couple other adult members of the team would have tried to figure out what was going on. As Billy would have been in a plane without a pilot, as he would just say Shazam. Him teleporting right where they were, and pretty much him saving, his adult friend with his Shazam abilities, as he would grab her before she hits the ground. As we get switched to the adult universe, where we will see Gotham City and everybody else freaking out about how all their kids are freaking gone. Basically them trying to riot. As they started to riot, Gotham City Police Department trying to fight back. In all this chaos, we would see that Mark to zone in and out of reality, as he would be on top of some sort of roof in Gotham City in the Young Justice universe, or basically in the Kid universe, where most of everybody else in this universe would have been adults, as we would get switched to Mark Spector walking down walking down the roof of one of the buildings he was perched on, as you start to zone in and out of consciousness, him blacking out to Jake Lockley. Now, Jake Lockley would have had a Moon Knight outfit similar to his black and white one in, I guess, canon, or now comic book continuity, as Moon Knight would have tried to pretty much run around trying to figure out what's going on, as he would have tried to get out of the mind space he was in when he blacked out, him just being in a dark void. As we would get switched to pretty much, Jake Lockley in his Moon Knight form in the physical, world, as he would start to run around saving people, but also taking out criminals, or young criminals that are trying to cause havoc, like goons and stuff like that. As he would grab the criminals, them being like 17, 18, him about to kill them, or just mark them right there with the shuriken, as we would get switched to. As we see the rest of the team figures out Billy Batson is Captain Marvel, as they would use his tether to the different dimensions, with him switching back to Billy Batson and Shazam, as we would see that they would have used him to, conversate and figure out what was going on and where was the magic drawing from. As Khonshu would have told Moon Knight this, as well, Captain Marvel was talking to everybody else, like, the Justice League and the Young Justice, as we switch to Jake Lockley, basically being told by Moon Knight to fulfill a deed he needs to be done with the most gruesomest of ways. Him telling him to kill Kid Chaos, as he would have said yes, and him disappearing into the shadows of Gotham City. Him making his way down to where Kid Chaos's magic would have been its highest peak, where his spell or his casting was happening. As Robin and Artemis would have fought back or trying to fight Kid Chaos, as Kid Chaos would have been fighting them, saying that's not the best you got. Basically, him shooting a lightning bolt towards them. As they would have started to fight Kid Chaos, Aqualad, Wally, and Connor all fighting him, trying to get towards him, him just taking them out pretty quickly, and him pretty much not being fazed by any of the magic Santara's throwing at him as well, as he would have started to just toss everybody around, just starting to drop every single person on the team. Just dropping everybody, a bit simple. As he would have started to use his magic in weird ways, shooting fireballs from his mouth and transforming into big versions of himself, as they would quickly figure out the cat was his tether to the physical world, them trying to kill the cat, as the cat would have tried, or they would have tried to kill the cat with a arrow, but the cat would have been, saved because Kid Chaos would turn the arrow into a ball of yarn. As Kid Chaos would have started to fight against them in more gruesome ways, him also turning his cat into a giant saber-tooth tiger, the cat literally smacking or pimp slapping Connor around like a rag doll. Now, as you're going to switch to pretty much the Justice League fighting against, the magic users, as we get switched away from that battle, since it wouldn't change at all, because, well, Moon Knight would have been in the child universe. As we see a Kid Chaos would have started to fight against them, Moon Knight eventually showing up, throwing a shuriken right towards Kid Chaos, and striking him in the chest, as Kid Chaos would have said, "How did you even get close to me?" As Moon Knight would be 6 feet away, him saying that, "I have help," as Khonshu would have appeared behind Jake Lockley, as Khonshu would have ran towards pretty much, well, Kid Chaos, as they would start to have a magic fight. As Khonshu would have used most of his moon powers, since it would be a full moon tonight. Not full moon. Yes, it would be a full moon, as, pretty much the peak of his power would have been at the best. As Jake Lockley would have gone full, counterpart, as he would have been faster, stronger, more durable, and more speedy, and have even more items up his sleeves. Him going full on just ghost god mode, as he would start to fight over and over against pretty much, well, Kid Chaos, as he would keep Kid Chaos at bay, as Santara's about to put the helmet on. As Khonshu would have seen this, Khonshu pretty much running towards Santara and basically trying to stop her from the fate that she, that's coming to her, as he would have been too late, and Khonshu wouldn't have been able to get to her. As Dr. Fate would have taken the body of Santara, as he would start to fight against pretty much, well, Kid Chaos. As Kid Chaos and Santara would have started to fight magic-like, as Moon Knight would have been pushed out the way, as Moon Knight would have hit one of the nearby trees, as he would have gotten out of the rubble of the trees. Now, as he would have ran back into the shadows, him throwing shurikens towards Kid Chaos, disorientating him, but him just keeping his focus on, Dr. Fate. Now, as we get switched to Jake Lockley going up against the cat, him seeing that the cat was his tether, so he would grab the cat and stab it in the back, as the cat would have been injured. Him grabbing the cat from the head, and him about to, well, let's just say, get rid of the cat, basically. Pretty much Kid Chaos would have, given up, telling him not to kill his cat, as Jake Lockley would have looked at the cat, and Khonshu would have said to just kill a cat and make sure he just never comes back, as Mark Spector would have phased back into, well, pretty much consciousness, as Jake Sully's outfit would have started to change back to Moon Knight's outfit, them changing back and forth throughout pretty much realities, not realities, but back and forth, pretty much between personalities, eventually Moon Knight or Mark Spector becoming back in control, as pretty much Mark Spector would have started to run around and basically try to keep the cat away from Kid Chaos, as Kid Chaos would eventually try to tell him to just stop, as the cat would be bleeding out at this point and needs some medical attention. And as he grabs the cat from the Nick, as he would drop the cat, telling him to leave now and never come back. As Kid Chaos would grab the cat and just dip, teleporting away, him saying, "I'll be back for you and you only." As pretty much Mark Spector would have been confused on what happened. As the rest of the team would have been shocked because, well, they never seen Mark move that fast, that gracefully, and be that, gruesome before. But pretty much Mark would have told him that he had no recollection of what happened. After that, we'll see that pretty much Kid Chaos would have set things back, and he would have retreated, as everybody else would have, been reunited with their children, and everything would have gone back to normal. As I'm going to leave off this series, not the series, but the episode here, and I'm going to continue with part 4, probably next week or probably next Friday. Not this Friday, though. So yeah, so I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Hope you guys like and subscribe. And as always, guys, have a blessed day. Before I go, I am going to be I'm not going to be redoing most of my lists, but I am going to be making continuations of my older, more, I guess, more popular what ifs that I've gotten like 1 point something views on. So I'm going to be doing more what ifs on those. And yeah, stuff like that. I'm also going to be doing a lot more stop motions since my stop motions are getting trashy now. No, not my stop motions are getting a lot more better since my first stop motions that were in the beginning of my channel. Just go to my oldest videos. But I'm going to be doing a stop motion on Green Lantern, and also I'm going to be doing a stop motion on Spider-Man versus Shocker versus Green Goblin all at once. Pretty much, for that. So yeah. So I am going to be making a lot more stop motions, like a good combination of 2 stop motions a week or 2 stop motions a month, and 2 or 4 what ifs a week. Now, hope you guys enjoyed the video. See you guys later. Deuces.